I'm Omar Farouk, co-founder and CEO of Glorify, the e-commerce focused design tool built for entrepreneurs. And welcome once again to our podcast, The Path to Glory. On The Path to Glory, we bring to you successful entrepreneurs, experts, and gurus and deep dive into their story. And more importantly, get insights into their entrepreneurship journey in addition to their amazing tips and advice. Now, on today's podcast, I'll focus on giving you amazing tips for your Amazon business and even your lifestyle. In fact, constructing your entrepreneurship lifestyle, I believe, with our guest, Danny Carlson. Danny Carlson is a successful entrepreneur, podcaster, and lifestyle architect. I think that's pretty cool. And he first started his first business producing extreme downhill longboarding videos in 2014 and has since grown and enhanced the Amazon FBA agency, kgri. kgri has served over 500 Amazon sellers and created photos, video, copywriting, and graphics for over 1,240 listings, which, I have to ask you, Dan, how you managed to do that. My agency alone couldn't even come close to topping that, which is an incredible achievement. And out of that, 634 of those Amazon listings are responsible for multi-million dollars in annual sales. I think that's a massive achievement for an agency. Now, also, Danny is also the host of the Actual Freedom podcast and the Danny Carlson podcast, completing more than 60 interviews with names such as Daniel D. Piazzi, Steve Sims, Manny Coates, and Kevin King. Danny resides in Bali during his off time, doing standing aerobatics. Is that how you say it? Standing aerobatics, ripping sport motorcycles, and training at Nirvana Strength. That's some pretty cool stuff, and I think I'm going to start this podcast on that particular note. Hi, Danny. Welcome to the podcast. It's a pleasure having you on board and taking your free time to be with us today. How's it going, man?
Really good. Thanks for having me on here. Make me sound really cool. Makes it sound like I've achieved all these cool things. But actually, one of those guys you mentioned, Daniel D. Piazza, his name just came back up again. He is he's going to be collaborating with Founder Magazine and doing a joint collaboration course with them. And he's actually featuring me as one of his successful student case studies. That's a mentor of mine that I also interviewed on the podcast. So shout out to my mentor, Daniel D. Piazza, doing big things with Founder Magazine. Pretty cool.
That's awesome, man. That's brilliant. I want to kind of get into the Amazon side of things a bit later in the interview, but there's some things that are quite unique about yourself. I mean, anyone who follows you online or who does a little bit of research behind your what you do, you'll find soon enough you're all over social media doing all kinds of acrobatic moves and stuff under the sun, which I think is pretty cool. There's different sides to you, and I want to kind of tap into all of those elements for our audience. And I think entrepreneurship is not just about the business side. Just as importantly as the business side and growing your business, I think it's also achieving all those getting in line with your passions in life. And I feel that you've really, really achieved that. Now, so tell me a little bit about standing aerobatics, ripping sport motorcycles, training at Nirvana Strength. I mean, what inspired to really take all of these up, and how have they helped you as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, that's really a great question. So I've kind of found that extreme sports for me, things that get me into a flow state, are really, really important just for my overall happiness in life. And I've tried to be that entrepreneur for the first maybe year and a half or 2 years of my business. I tried to be that Gary Vee entrepreneur who just works 16 hours a day and 7 days a week and just tried to grind to make it happen. And what I found is I would very repeatably and reliably, every 7 to 14 days, I would just hit a wall where I just completely depleted any willpower. Probably my sleep wasn't so good. And then I just started making bad decisions, started making poor diet decisions, started to be less productive at work. Sure, my hours would go up, but my productivity was going down because I was just doing busy work. And I just realized that actually scheduling in the things that I really enjoy doing and putting aside that time for doing the gym every day, doing the sauna, doing the ice bath, doing all the things that actually keep me happy and keep me healthy and fit in my body and mind are really important to be able to work really hard in my business. And so maybe the amount of hours that I put into my business is less, but I actually accomplish more in those less hours than I did when I was trying to work 14 to 16 hour days all the time.
That's incredible. I mean, I think that alone is an important touch point for me personally, because a couple of years ago, I used to be a hippie, living in sort of the psychedelic realm, going going to festival, living with hippies, squatting homes and all kinds of stuff. And that lifestyle was very detrimental to my body. And it kind of goes against the whole hippie ethos of trying to be, this empowered human being, and trying to achieve, be one with nature and all that kind of stuff, where you kind of destroying your body in the process didn't make sense to me. So I went actually in a similar path to you, where I took up yoga, I took up all kinds of different wellness activities, I would say. And I developed my physique, and I got into that flow state, which had a massive impact on my career, a massive impact on my mental health, my ability to work on businesses and solve critical problems. And so that I totally relate to what's why you're doing that. However, I've recently found myself going to a dip where I've gone back deep into my business, and I'm working those that 14-hour shift. Despite me having a team at my disposal, I'm still really very much engrossed in the business. I want to come out of it, and I want to try to take what you just inspired us with right now in terms of the lifestyle that you've adopted. So that's really inspiring, man. I think it's useful for any entrepreneur to find that balance, and I think you've done that really well. Can you just tell us a little bit, just to track back a little bit from that? It would be great for you to kind of tell us a little bit about yourself, about your background and your upbringing, perhaps, so people know and understand what's behind the entrepreneur.
Yeah, it really wasn't too different to you, Omar. Like before I got into business, I actually was really into longboard racing. So this is like longer skateboards that we ride down the roads. And when we're practicing, we do it on the open roads, and there's cars that are on blind corners and stuff, and so it's pretty dangerous. But I would actually compete in closed road races. So they'd go shut down the road and put hay bales around all the corners, and we race 4 to 6 riders at a time going down the hill, and the top riders advance onto the next round. So I was pretty much obsessed with that. So I was working as a carpenter, really had no idea about business or online marketing or any of that kind of stuff. I just was focused on just working in carpentry to make enough money to go to the next longboard race. And actually got to a pretty good level with that. I was competing against some of the top guys in the world, and one of my best results, I got 4th place in a World Cup event, which is the top level of racing. And I had some sponsors and everything like that. But then I just realized I had a big epiphany when I was racing in the Philippines on this remote island, like 12 hours away from a real hospital. I had a near-death experience there. I almost had a head-on collision with a motorcycle in the middle of a longboard race. It's the Philippines. They don't exactly close the roads too well in the Philippines like they do in America. So that just really shook me up. And it made me realize that the life direction that I was on was not the life direction that I wanted to continue on. And I'd always dreamed of, financial freedom and, doing the whole digital nomad thing, having the freedom to do that and not having to go back to work carpentry in the pouring Vancouver rain after my amazing trip going longboarding. So I made the decision just right there on that island that I was going to get back from that trip, and I was just going to go and start that online business that had been on my mind, and I just never really had the push to go and do it. And that was really the push that I had to go and do it.
Okay, that's incredible. So that epiphany, I think there's a certain time in life where I think opportunity might present itself. It's kind of like a creeping, like it's this wake up call, right? And once you have that wake up call, I think a lot of entrepreneurs experience that, and if they pay enough attention to it, I think it can be life changing. And I think that's what happened to you, which is great. And especially if you're on a specific trajectory that you're initially on, there's no harm in actually finding new spaces to dive into, and that's more in line with your current values and your current goals in life, right? Which is great. Now, before you started your Amazon business, you produced downhill longboarding videos. I mean, what was that like? Would you say that was your first kind of dabble in entrepreneurship, because you're doing that as a business, I believe, right?
Yeah, I mean, technically that was my first business. I actually registered as a sole proprietor and was so that business essentially was me producing downhill skateboarding videos of either myself or my friends who were all just sponsored longboarders. And then I would sell those videos to or sponsor companies mostly, or other longboarding companies. So it was a way for me to make money location independently. It was a way for me to set my own pricing and learn a lot of the things that come with doing freelancing or starting your own business. But I had no clue what I was doing. Originally I just created a website and I thought I was going to create basically, I don't know if you know what like pinkbike.com is, but like essentially it's like a website hub for like mountain biking. I wanted to create the same thing for longboarding, but it was kind of on the tail end of that business model. Facebook and Instagram and these platforms are really taking away most of the viewers of those platforms and just amalgamating onto their platforms. So the timing wasn't right for it. My entrepreneurial skills, my marketing skills were way underdeveloped, but I did learn some good fundamentals of business in that business. In total, I think I made less than $100,000 over 2 or 3 years, but it allowed me to get my feet wet and really get a taste of that, so that when I did start my first legitimate online business, I wasn't starting completely from scratch. I had the work ethic. I knew the basics of what it took to actually make it happen in different pieces, and I wasn't starting completely from scratch.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's great that you started with that sort of started with your passion, your core passion, and turned that into business. I think that's a brilliant way to get into business, in fact, because there's lots of longevity and stamina that you can have, which you seem to have. I mean, you carried on that for 3 years, which is a great achievement. Would you say, just to clarify to our audience, I mean, would you say that was your first dabble entrepreneurship, or did you have any other experiences prior to that? Because we want to kind of dive into the buildup of that entrepreneurship spirit, if there was any previous to that.
That was pretty much it. Up until that point, I had been working as a carpenter. I had a job at like Tim Hortons, which is like a coffee chain, and A&W, like a hamburger chain. That was pretty much it. And yeah, and honestly, the start of that business came from another epiphany moment as well. It was, again, I was longboarding a couple of years previous to my near-death experience. I was longboard racing in Puerto Rico, and then I broke my collarbone like 3 days into what was supposed to be a month-long trip. And so my trip got cut short. So I go fly home with my broken collarbone, and I'm just sitting there. I can't go back to work as a carpenter. So I'm like, okay, so what am I going to do with my time? I just got to sit here for like minimum 6 weeks up to 3 months. And that's when I just decided to start that business just with my free time.
Wow. Well, it's quite a challenge that your epiphanies come alongside, extreme pain, which is interesting. But I think growth happens with extreme pain, of course, and I think we know that. Now, I'd like to kind of start to get into the maturity of entrepreneurship journey. You went, like you said, you went, you did your longboarding thing, and you started diving into entrepreneurship, developing those skill sets. So, was Amazon the first business that you had after that, or did you do anything else?
Amazon was the first one after that, but I also want to touch on what you said about starting from pain. I think that one of the biggest barriers that gets in the way of someone from starting their first business, actually getting it going and taking that leap, is the lack of pain, is the presence of comfort. And they're just a little bit too comfortable. Like they're working a job that they don't like it, but they don't hate it enough to have the discomfort that's going to push them to do it. Or they're making just enough money that they can live a comfortable life, but not enough money to live the life they actually want to live. So they're just comfortable enough. And there's something really insidious about that will trap someone from ever starting and actually doing what they want to do. So I don't think that pain is a bad thing. I think honestly that transformation, real true transformation never happens without the presence of either really strong, decently strong pain, or even stronger desire to achieve something. And more often than not, like probably 85% of the time or more, it's pain that's going to drive someone rather than the desire to achieve something more. But to answer your question, it is Amazon was the next thing that I got into. I actually started by launching my own products on Amazon. I just went all in. I got a loan from the Canadian government through a young entrepreneurial program. And I just, as soon as I got back from that trip, I went and purchased a course on how to sell on Amazon. Started listening to like every single podcast I could get my hands on while I was working my full-time carpentry job. So I listened to those podcasts on 2x speed and just consumed a ridiculous amount of information. And then 6 months later, I had inventory already landed in Amazon. So I moved pretty quickly on that and just made it happen with my first 3 products on Amazon.
I think that's brilliant. So I think I can start to see how this is leading up towards kgri, which again is a great model that you can build an agency around a business that you personally have experience in and had personal success in. And I think that's the best model to start your agency upon. If you have any expertise to service other businesses, you know, having hands-on within the business mechanics itself is just super important. And that's what I like about what kgri does. Tell us about the transition, Amazon to kgri. How did that happen?
So it kind of happened organically. In the beginning, let's say maybe 2 months into my Amazon selling career after I launched my first product, I just organically started getting a few Amazon seller friends asking for my help to create their listings because I had taught myself the skill of copywriting and also was pretty familiar with keyword optimization since I've done it on my own Amazon listings. So I just started doing it as a little side hustle, making a few $100s here and there. But it wasn't until about 6 months into my Amazon selling journey, I hit my biggest roadblock. So my Amazon account got suspended. And it was a massive roadblock too, because I was really aggressive with my cash flow. I was investing in like 5 or 6 new products all at once and, sea shipment consolidation and a whole bunch of things. So getting hit with that right at that time, I also had to hire a lawyer for that one to get that one resolved. And it was just a huge cash flow hit, really scared me. So the next 3 months, my income went to zero. And I had to really take a look at that whole business model and be like, okay, so like this can get me in a lot of trouble. If this happened to me at the stage that I was at there, what if it happened to me if I was, multi-million or 8-figure level? Then it's bankruptcy overnight. So, I mean, that's the reality with a kind of business like that. So I started looking at ways to hedge that risk. And the best way I knew to hedge that risk was to just continue doing what I was doing with freelancing. And for those 3 months when I was making no money, I started to put more energy into growing that out into a legitimate agency style business. And that's exactly what I did with Kenji ROI.
That's awesome. I think that's a brilliant strategy, especially if you've have the expertise to share. Tell us a little bit about that process, onboarding clients. The reason I want to say this is because a large portion of our audience are servicing 50%, in fact, of our audience are marketeers and freelancers servicing other e-com businesses, and they'd love to follow into your footsteps. Working out the mechanics of starting an agency, onboarding clients. I think the key fact of that, what we just discussed, that I think I'm pretty sure that you would agree. Just see if you're with me on here, is that it's best that any person servicing a particular business has had hands-on experience in the business model itself, and then creates an agency around it. Would you say that's the best system to do it?
Yeah, I would say that's the best system. And I actually teach that too. So I have a program that helps people take the skills they already have, then turn that to an agency, because that's exactly what I did. I don't recommend people, I just got a bone to pick with a lot of the online gurus that are out there, like Ty Lopez, as an example. I'll just go ahead and call him out because everyone knows him. He's just teaching people who have no idea how to run Facebook ads to start a Facebook ads agency, as an example. And then he'll do the same thing with cryptocurrency. He himself, at the time he launched a cryptocurrency course, he had no idea about cryptocurrency.
Oh, I've seen that. It's a whole cocktail of stuff. It's like a whole cocktail, entrepreneurship cocktail, basically.
Yeah, and to me, that just makes no sense. Like, if you already have some kind of job skills, if you've been working some kind of career for at least a couple years, then 90% chance you have some skills that you can build a freelancing career and then eventually build it into a full-scale agency. So it doesn't make any sense not to utilize those skills you've already built, because starting from scratch is not an easy thing to do. Like, you should not be starting a Facebook ads agency if you have no idea how to run Facebook ads. It's just, it'll take you an extra couple of years to really get to where you probably are right now with a different skill set. So my program, Freedom Agency Blueprint, goes through that process of identifying like what your skills are that are monetizable and how to actually monetize them. And that's the situation I was in when my Amazon account got suspended. I had the skills. I already knew what I was doing. I'd already been doing a little bit of freelancing on the side. Then it was a no-brainer to really just start going through the motions of scaling that out and just building it into an agency. So, I mean,
that makes total
lot of
sense.
Different stages. Yeah.
It makes total sense, Danny. I think it like, of course, like you should go for the low hanging fruit, and the low hanging fruit for anyone is their nearest expertise and skill set, and nurturing that and taking advantage of that. So I'm totally in line with that, and I think It'd be great to hear more about your program at the end of this podcast. And, perhaps guys, if you stay till the end of this podcast, you'll find out where to actually find Danny's programs and a little bit more about him so that you can dive into this stuff. I think this is excellent. So tell us a little bit about scaling the agency, the mechanics of scaling. So, you started an agency, you had your nearest skill set and the progress of getting it to where it is now. Tell us a little bit about that journey.
Yeah, so I get the first year was all just making all the really dumb mistakes and just putting in hours and hustling and trying to grind and make it happen. So I was making the classic mistakes of working too much in the business and not on the business. In the beginning, I was the one still doing all the listing creation. I had a few virtual assistants who were helping with like doing keyword research and some other kind of manual tasks, but I didn't yet have the skill sets, or even more importantly, I didn't even know what the framework of creating a successful agency was. I was just kind of winging it, to be honest. And it wasn't until maybe 2 years or 2.5 years in that I actually committed and hired a mentor and just learned what I didn't know, which is so important. And there was a lot of missteps and a lot of like really important lessons that I had to learn. But at the end of the day, I had to learn those lessons. And, going through that process, I learned a ton about entrepreneurship and how to actually grow agencies. But after that first year of just kind of tinkering around, I just realized kind of the work in front of me of what needed to happen. And at the very point, I was solution aware at the very least. And then maybe after year two, after 2 years of having the agency, I finally had a decent team of maybe probably about 4 people at that point. And I was still doing some of the work, but I knew that I had to extract myself from the deliverables of the business. And so we're working on expanding. I'm slowly getting towards more of my main skill set, which is marketing and content creation, and really trying to focus on that. And after about year 2 is when it started to really work. So it's when I started committing to working with a mentor who had actually scaled an agency before, and started putting systems and processes in place that I just didn't know anything about, and like accounting and financial stuff that I just hadn't. That stuff stresses me out. It still stresses me out, but at least I have systems in place that keep track of cash flow and can make good decisions instead of just looking at bank balances and making hiring decisions and stuff based on that. But the first 2 years was a lot of hustle. And I think for anyone, it's probably going to be in hustle phase. And phase 3. So phase 3 for year 3 was a lot of just, I knew the work that had to get done and just putting more work into hiring more people, putting more systems in place. Now I'm in phase 4, which is we have about 10 full-time team members, and I don't do any of the client delivery. My time is 100% focused on marketing, sales, and business development, which that in itself is actually starting to get to the point where I'm going to have to let go of sales pretty soon. That's probably a couple of months down the road. It's just hiring and training a sales team, which is not looking forward to it because it's a heck of a task to get done. But that was kind of the phase of going through the agency. So my recommendation to anyone going through the journey, just go find someone who's done it before. Like I'm not saying come to me. Like go find the mentor who has done exactly what you want to do, the closest to what you want to do, and just like try to learn from them, whether you pay them or whatever, however you can get that information. People have done this kind of stuff before. I wasted probably 1.5 years on things that I could have just knocked out of the way by actually getting the blueprint.
All right, so that pretty much defines the whole process. Like for us on a kind of third, like from an aerial view, it gives us a good understanding of how the journey works. Now, I just want to kind of dive into some of those systems and processes you mentioned, because I think that's really important. That if you don't have the system, because you mentioned that you have a 10-person management team, and I think that trickles down to further VAs and whatnot, and that gets difficult to manage. Especially if you're not in communication with everyone. You can't be working in the business, as you said, and you can't be bogged down by all of the mechanics within the business. So you have to be working on the top level stuff, like you said, sales, perhaps even onboarding clients at some point of the journey, and the marketing and content stuff. Now, how does that system? How do you make sure that the system works with your team? And how does your team mechanics function? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I'll make it a very high level overview. So at a very high level, you really need two pieces that is going to make the business operate really well. So you have the team members, but then you also have the pieces of the standard operating procedures. And we have that in like a document management system called Notion, which is really great. And people can just go in and access these standard operating procedure documents. We have like screen capture videos and then very simple bullet point lists of processes for people to go through. We can send them off to contractors and everything. Then we mix that with the task management software. I'll keep this very simple. Like Trello is most of our task management software. And within each card, it will have a link to the standard procedure. So if someone needs a reminder or if it's their first time doing it, they can go see exactly how it's done. But then also it'll keep track of the task getting done. So that's layer one. That system needs to be in place for everything to happen. Layer number two for permanent team members. This is one of the biggest leaps that I made in my business of just being able to focus on things while just being sure that other things, important things are getting done, is creating what I call the weekly scorecard. So it's just a spreadsheet that has metrics for each week on the most important parts of the business. So I can very easily see, are things getting done? Are things getting done? The most important parts of the business, are they going well or are they not going well? Where do I need to put my attention for the week? If I see the metrics and they are looking good, then I know that it's going good and I don't need to do anything. I don't need to go micromanage that part of the business. But if I see some metrics in a part of the business that is like, okay, what the heck is going on there? Why is there zero new leads coming in from this lead source right now? There's something broken. So I need to go in there and look at that. And the magic of that too is every team member has a metric that they are responsible for. So the product photographer, he has, how many lifestyle shoots did he complete this week? How many studio shoots did he complete this week? And he has to go input those numbers himself into that weekly scorecard. So he is accountable for that. And if those numbers are not good, then he has to explain why they're not good. And I know that he's aware of them because he has to input those numbers. And also like website metrics, like how many unique website visitors did we get this week? If it's like a quarter of what it normally is, then we know something's wrong. We got to look into it. If it's double what it normally is, then we also want to look into it. Like, where did that extra traffic come from? So we can capitalize on that and keep it going. So, and you don't want to overcomplicate this either. You want it to be only the most important metrics in your business. You don't want 100 metrics. You probably want maximum 20 metrics for your entire business. Even less if you're just starting out. It's going to be like 10 metrics for your entire business that it gives you a pulse of where, like, are things actually happening the way they should be.
Yeah, I love that, man. I love the accountability system that you just mentioned. I think that's something that I personally want to really implement in my own business. So thanks for sharing that again. I think there's lots of nuggets of value here that you've given in terms of the overview of the system process you created. Definitely metrics is super important. And if you're not getting those high level metrics, then how are you ever going to grow? So I totally understand that, doing that on a weekly basis makes total sense for an agency like yours. And I appreciate that, those mechanics are in place. So I think, there's a lot of nuggets for our audience to take from there alone. I want to now kind of take a step away from the agency management part of things and talk about the actual services that you offer to your clients, and so just tell us a little bit about kgri, what it offers, I believe you do photography services, video copywriting. I might be missing something here. So give us a breakdown of that. How do you manage those processes, and tell us the impact of all of these services that you have on e-commerce entrepreneurs or Amazon businesses per se.
Yeah, so kgri offers every piece of an optimized product listing for any brands to sell on Amazon, and then also manages Amazon ads on a monthly basis. So anything that shows up on an Amazon listing, our team creates. So that's the product photography with all types, like lifestyle models, graphics, and all that. That's the copywriting with the Amazon SEO, all the keyword optimization, A+ content, videos, storefronts, pretty much anything that is on Amazon, we produce, and some other things there as well. So that makes up most of the business. And the way that impacts businesses mostly is, well, one, like actually showing up in search results with the Amazon SEO, but mostly in conversion rate. So a lot of people don't know how much of an impact conversion rate has on the Amazon sales. So one example we show in like all of our sales calls and everything like that. So our product selling $29.99 and it's making $22,000 a month. if you were to raise the conversion rate of that product by 2%, then the revenue goes up by like almost 50%. So you're going to be selling like $30,000 instead of $22,000. But if you doubled the conversion rate up to 10 or 11%, then what happens to the profit is it actually goes up by 820%. So the revenue goes up exponentially, but the profit goes up like hockey stick
Wow.
with conversion rate. Because a lot of the time your advertising costs are staying the same, but you're just getting more organic and advertising visitors to make a sale. So it's mostly in conversion rate optimization. The other side of it is Amazon ads that we manage for our clients.
Right. I mean, it's quite interesting. You mentioned the hockey stick effect. I can't work out the maths in my head, of course, but it's really interesting that such small increases in ROI or conversion can, such small increases of conversion rates can have such a massive impact on the front end, which is incredible. I mean, is there anything that you can tell us? How does that actually work? Like, what's the inner details of the exponential scaling there? Because I can't actually wrap my head around the math. I think our business owners would love to know that.
Yeah, so where the magic really comes from is when the conversion rate is lower and you're spending ads. So let's say you're running $5,000 in Amazon ads, and the conversion rate is lower, then you're spending more money to get the same amount of sales on ads. But when the conversion rate goes up, not only are your ads performing better, so you're getting more sales for the amount of money on ads, but also your organic sales are also converting
Ah,
at a much higher rate. So that's where the exponential effect comes from. On the lower side, the lower conversion rate, that ad spend is just driving into your profit margin. But when the conversion rate is higher, those ads are performing exponentially better.
so
Um,
this is all part of the Amazon flywheel and algorithm as well, I guess.
exactly. And that's not even accounting for how much it's going to raise the organic algorithm and raise your search ranking. That just literally accounts for the bare numbers of if your conversion rate increases this much with the same amount of impressions, the same amount of clicks, then it's going to go up by 821% if you get your conversion rate from 5% to 11%.
That's awesome, man. There you go, guys. You have it. I mean, that strategy alone is going to do wonders for your business. I mean, the strategy specifically, we haven't got into the specifics of it, but it all comes down to optimizing your listing, as Danny said, optimizing your content around, your copywriting in the listing, your imagery, and of course your ads. Danny, tell us a little bit about that. Like, what can you actually do? So, give us some tips and I guess some high level information that our audience can take away to do some things now that can give us that increase in conversion rate for their listings.
Yeah, so the real 80/20 of it is the images. So the images that are at the top of your Amazon listing are the most important. And out of those, the most important one is that main image because that's the one that shows up on the search results pages and also on advertising. So you're paying for ads, then the only image customers are going to see to make the decision to click on your product or not is the main image. And so that one heavily affects the click-through rate, but also the conversion rate too. So, but mostly click-through rate. The rest of your images are the biggest effect on conversion rate, followed by probably the A plus content description. As like partway down, you have a fancy description with images and special modules that you can make a custom description down there that should increase conversion rate by 1 to 5%. But anyways, the most important things for the images at the top are one, key info optimization, and two, persuasive desire optimization. This part of the triple optimize Amazon listing methodology. We use the kgri ROI. Most people don't even know really what key info optimization is. They've always been told that you have to speak in terms of benefits. And so they just load the listing with benefits and they don't really pay attention to key info optimization. What is the most key information that a customer needs to see in order to make a purchasing decision about your product? And it's different for every product. You have to really think. So let's use the example of let's say there's like a new type of Bluetooth that came out that's only compatible with iPhones. I'm not a tech guy. I don't really know too much about that. But if someone was shopping for that product, they would need to see, Bluetooth X, let's say it's called. If you don't have Bluetooth X in like the first little tidbit of the title where someone can read it on a shortened mobile title on the Amazon mobile app, if you don't have that in the second image slot where someone scrolls to the second image and they immediately know that that's the Bluetooth X headphones, then you're going to lose a lot of attention from people who are looking for that because competitors who have optimized for that are going to get the clicks. And don't forget that on all of your product listings, there's on average 27 competitor listings that show up below your listing in the sponsored products related to this item. Customers who view this item also viewed. Amazon's always testing new ways to try to get customers to click off of your listing onto one they're more likely to actually buy. So really, really important to optimize for key info optimization in your second image and your third image especially, because as you go down the images, less and less customers actually see that, and you want your most important information to be there. And the next tip should be obvious, but you just need really, really good quality images that show your product in the best light. So now you've identified what the information you need to show in these images are. Now you need an actual professional photographer to take beautiful images that make your product look better than your competitors. It's e-commerce. So people's only perception of your product they can see is on this two-dimensional screen they have in front of them. And if it doesn't look absolutely amazing, like all of that other stuff that they see scrolling on Instagram every single day, where everything looks larger than life and real and super incredible, then it just looks dull in the land of Instagram and social media and all the other distractions that are on this shiny phone device. So the bar really has to be super high for most categories on Amazon today to be appealing and actually get that conversion rate high.
Absolutely. You hit it on the nail, Danny. And I think that's really important for all of our e-commerce entrepreneurs to know. As a whole, I think this is very relatable to not only if you're selling on Amazon, but if you're selling on Etsy, eBay, if you're listing products on now Facebook shops or any kind of social media channel that you're using to push products, then your imagery need to be on point, as well as the captivating titles and the information that comes along with it, so you can grab attention, like Danny said. So, Danny, again, thanks for those massive tips. I'd like to also kind of understand a little bit about. So you mentioned a couple of the pro tips that you said. With Amazon, the Amazon model, it's constantly changing. There's, like you said, the Amazon tests and tries different things every single week or month or every season. How do you stay on top of the game as, number one, an agency owner, and how do business owners stay on top of the game when all of these changes are being implemented?
Yeah. So, I mean, two things I think. First is it's all about relationships. So, you need to be networking and creating real relationships with other people who are at a similar or higher level than you are in whatever business you're operating in. So, if that's Amazon FBA, then you need to have a close relationship with other Amazon sellers who are, doing similar volume, who are going through similar issues, who can share this kind of information. Because the way it works on Amazon and most online platforms these days, these online platforms, and Amazon included, do not make big announcements of the changes they're making to the platform. They'll just silently tweak the algorithm, or more commonly today, the algorithm will tweak itself. The people who wrote the algorithm don't even know what the algorithm's doing anymore because it's so advanced, it just continually improves itself. So the only way you're going to figure this stuff out is by firsthand data, like what is happening to your friends, what is happening to you. So observing your own data, but then also sharing that information with the people in your close circle and like nurturing those relationships so they trust you to share that information with you. So
I think this is
very,
exactly
very
where
important.
I think this is exactly where community has a massive plays a massive role here. Like if you're part of the FBA community and you have this mutual love and understanding between other sellers in that community, and you share this information, I think it creates this a great relationship and creates this synergy between all of us to scale together, right? Are you part of any communities like that? Do you agree with that, firstly, Danny? And are you part of any communities for Amazon?
Yeah, absolutely. So for Amazon, and then also specifically on the Amazon agency side, commit myself to two separate groups, specifically like for Amazon selling, and then one specifically for Amazon service provider companies. So I think it's really important to keep that, or else you're really just missing out on so much valuable information. Mastermind groups, everyone can mention the value of a mastermind group. I'm sure everyone's tried some kind of mastermind group, but I think, in my opinion, you should be in a mastermind group very specifically with people who are doing exactly what you're doing at a similar or a higher level. And it might take a while to really find those people and connect with those people, but it's so worth it compared to just getting a mastermind group together with a bunch of kind of random entrepreneurs doing a bunch of different things. I've tried that too in a bunch of different scenarios, and it's just so much more valuable if everyone's all doing the same thing and can share that really specific information with each other and help each other.
Makes total sense. Um, I think we've covered so much. I want to kind of tap into passion and flow state, because I love that particular topic. I think, all this stuff really doesn't matter. So the agency, the mechanics of the business, if you're not level headed, and if you don't have everything working up there, and even your body, your spirit, your soul, I think that's going to cause many issues. Um, Danny, share with us some tips and things that people could do to perhaps to get into flow state. I listen to a lot of podcasts on, people that I personally admire and respect. Of course, Tony Robbins, and I love Vishen Lakiani, the CEO of Mind Valley, is a massive one that I love to follow. Is there? I try to take the best from anyone that there's good and bad from everyone, but I try to take the stuff that works the most for me. Is there anything that you could particularly share with our audience that works for you?
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of hedonic calendaring. So what that means is choosing things on a daily, weekly, monthly, or quarterly, or annual basis, and then scheduling those into the calendar. Just things that will consistently put me into a flow state, keep me healthy in my body and mind. So on the daily level, I go to the gym every single day, and at the gym, I make sure to do at least one thing that I actually enjoy doing, not just pushing weights up and down. So I practice handstands, or I do something a little bit more interesting at the gym. And my gym in Bali is pretty great. It's also got a sauna and an ice bath. So I stack that with sauna and ice bath, and then I go dry off in the sun. Sometimes I'll do like a power pose standing in the sun, and put on like some affirmations or a meditation or something like that. And every single day I do some form of intermittent fasting. So some days, well, every single day I won't eat breakfast, and I'll eat my first meal after 2 p.m. Sometimes I'll just have a bone broth at 2 p.m. and then have my only meal of the day around 5:30 p.m. That's what's been working best for me to just keep my focus, and it keeps me in that flow state a little bit longer. I also meditate every morning for between 20 minutes to an hour. Lately, I've been doing Joe Dispenza's meditations. I think are like the most powerful guided meditations out there. So definitely recommend reading his books. He's like a neuroscientist who also does like meditations on manifestation. So very interesting there. And then that's kind of on the daily level. Journaling is one last thing I do daily to help with that. But then on a weekly level, going off and doing something that gets my adrenaline going will get me into that flow state. So I have my sport motorcycle here that I sometimes will put on my leathers and go up to the windy mountain roads and try to drag a knee on the ground and get that thing leaned over. It's really fun. Or go dirt biking. Last weekend, I went dirt biking up on the volcano with a bunch of my friends, just ripping through the forest and trying to do hill climbs up the side of the volcano and stuff. And
Man, that sounds
that was
incredible.
great fun.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm in a little bit of envy just hearing that lifestyle. That sounds positive envy, of course. Like I really admire the stuff that you're getting to on a day-to-day basis. I think that's amazing, man. I love extreme kind of sports. I'm a big fan of mountain climbing, for example. Like me and my wife, we try to find the next mountain to climb, as almost as a challenge to me and her as a family. We want to kind of get to the peak of every. Hopefully, Everest will be eventually at the end of that list. But yeah, I really love that kind of stuff, man. I think it's important to do things that moves your body and spirit, and so that when you come back, it helps that you've accumulated all these other experiences as well. I still find it very difficult to understand how to balance all of these things, because I've got an app as well, and I have habit management, routine management app, and in that I've got meditation, I've got prayer, I've got all kinds of stuff but very often I'll have a good streak. Yeah, I'll have like a 1 week great streak. I do everything perfect, and then I'll have a bad week. Where I kind of miss a bunch of tasks. I get a bit, and then towards the end of the week, I realize, what, I've missed most of them. I'll just make sure I'll pick up the pace again the following week and get back on track. But yeah, I mean, do you have those weeks? Do you have those bad weeks and, where you have your daily routine, but you fall short of them?
I'm pretty strict with my daily routine, and I do have another call starting in 4 minutes here, so I'll keep it short.
Sure.
But the way I've gotten around that, I used to have that problem, but first off, I think discipline is a muscle that needs to be trained on a regular basis, just like going to the gym. And you will lose your muscle if you stop going to the gym. So, my daily discipline muscle is meditation for 20 minutes to an hour, and then is the gym, and then it's the sauna and the ice bath. None of those things I particularly want to do, except meditation is probably the most enjoyable. The other ones are not enjoyable to me. I don't really enjoy sitting in a freaking freezing cold ice bath, but it trains my discipline muscle and it also has good health benefits. So I do it every single day. So when it comes time to discipline myself to do the other things that take discipline in my work, then it's easy. And the second part of that is, I would say, this has been a bigger breakthrough in my productivity recently, is actually just pre-scheduling literally every single minute of my day. So here's this is actually called the Stoic Day Planner. It's by a guy, the Habit Accelerator. It's like some course he has, but it forces you to just literally go in and write out what you have in every part of your day. So, but in every evening, I'll go put in all the meetings I have for the next part of my day. I'll input all of my time blocking. Like, I do a time block for all of my messages. I do a time block for my meditation, for, sauna and gym and all that stuff. And then I just very clearly see how much time I have left to schedule in the most important things. And then after I've scheduled in the one most important task, you realize there's not actually that much time left in your day to get the other stuff done. So that eliminates the problem of creating a big to-do list at the start of the day. And everyone is always way too ambitious with what they can achieve in that to-do list.
You fall short of it. Exactly. I think that's the
And you
same
fall
old
short.
problem.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
It makes total sense, man. Thanks for sharing that as well. I think that makes total sense. And I guess there's a few things that are non-negotiable for you that you have to schedule into your day, right? And so as long as you do the things that are non-negotiable and you continue, I think the list building process sounds like a great thing. I think something that we could all try, perhaps. Danny, it's been awesome having you on board, man. I think we've learned a lot from this conversation, not just from an e-commerce business perspective, but also lifestyle and mindset and even for people that want to start an agency servicing e-commerce clients, which is incredible. Where can our audience find what you do and get in touch with you?
So the Amazon agency is called kgri. And my personal brand in that course that I mentioned is at dannycarlson.co. So that's my personal brand. I have a personal podcast around that as well, where I talk about pretty much what we're talking about on today's podcast, about the agencies and lifestyle, mindset, and all that kind of stuff. Because that's kind of my side obsession, as you guys can probably tell from all the crazy stuff that I do. So you can check me out, kgri.com or dannycarlson.co.
Thanks, man. Guys, there you have it. It's been an awesome conversation. Take all the golden nuggets from this conversation and take action on them. Apply them to your life. Anything that works, that you particularly think that will work for you, I think is a massive opportunity to implement yourself. Again, Danny, thanks a lot. I'll catch up with you soon. This is the Path to Glory. Take care, guys. Be well.